Hello, everyone. I'm Jim Garrison. In the spirit of the trees, in the spirit of all of living nature, I want to welcome you to this session of Humanity Rising. Today is what they call Easter Monday. Over the last couple of days, we've commemorated Passover. We have been in the middle of Ramadan. We are now in Easter, and now the day after Easter. So we're in a very sacred space, I would say, in human spirituality over these last several days. So today we thought we would explore more deeply the nature of spirituality in a changing world, both in terms of how spirituality is changing and how the world is changing in relationship to spirituality. Over the last 50 years, there's been a revolution, literally, in how people perceive themselves, both in terms of their religion, and more people, as you may all know, are disengaging from religion to develop their own unique spirituality. So in that spirit, we want to reflect today on the spiritual evolution of humankind, from someone who is born in the West, but whose spirituality is derived from the East. And I want to introduce him now, Sultan Ser, who was initiated into the Buddhist Sangha as a Buddhist monk at a very, very early age. And has been a practitioner and now a teacher of Buddhist practice and philosophy and Tantra for many, many years. He lives in Budapest in Hungary, and he joins us today from that great nation. He will be leading our opening meditation, and then after the meditation, I will circle back and we'll have a dialogue about his life and what he's learned and his teachings and his perception of various matters of importance to the development of human spirituality in our world. So Sultan, I want to welcome you to Humanity Rising and lead us now into an opening meditation, and then we'll have our dialogue. But welcome.
So very welcome, everybody, and also thank you very much, Jim, to give me the opportunity to talk also and then to lead this short, essential meditation. All meditations are connected to our three gates. We call three gates: body, speech, and mind. So we will do going by body and then speech or breathing and mind. So please feel comfortable, sitting position. So first we are trying to center between earth and the sky. So first of all, we feel our body, and also we feel the earth below. Feel how the body is heavy. And then we focus above our head. And we feel also the difference. If we feel below, then we feel some stability, concreteness. It's like supporting us. And then we feel above the head where we can feel the space, openness, without forms, freedom. And then as a role of human beings, we have to connect the two, the earth and the sky. So we feel the center line between the two, sky and earth. We feel a center line, which is our back straight. And we feel a very tiny central line, vertical line between the top of the head and down to our center point where we sit. And when we feel center, then we can relax. Whenever we are in the center, feel the axis, then we can relax. we start to be spacey. So we relax the muscles from above, forehead, the eyes, we relax. This way we are also relaxing thinking. And then we relax the jaws. Now we relax speaking, all the actions. And going down, we relax the shoulders. This is connected to any action. We release now, we don't need any action. And then we relax all the tensions around the navel. This is connected to the legs, connected to the going or walking. We don't need any going anymore. No, we are centered. We are in our center. And then we relax all the tensions below the waist, thighs. And when we relaxed, then we can feel that more and more we feel our breathing. So we focus now to the breathing. Now the body is like a shelter, like a pot, and then the breathing is feeling our body. And we feel how we connect inner space and outer space. When we inhale, then the outer space is invading or filling our inner space. When we exhale, we express ourselves to the outer space. Our inner being is going out. So we are aware of the space inside and outside the body. We feel the time, we feel the continuity of breathing. We are continuously present. We relaxed all the action of thinking, speaking, inner chatters, any action, any movement, walking. And we relaxed also the memories, the past. We feel the presence, we feel our breathing, we feel life. We feel also the inner space and outer space, and also we recognize that actually we are always in communication with the inner world and the outer world. And now our third gate is mind. Mind is connected to the sensory object, sensory fields, and among them, the most centered one is hearing. So let all the sounds penetrating our mind, and we are aware of all the sounds. Whether it's inner sounds or outer sounds, we are just listening the sounds. And now we are aware of the position of the body between the earth and the sky. Feel the center line. Also, we are aware of our breathing, continuous inhalation, exhalation, and then we are listening the sounds, listening any sound, whether it is inner sound or outer sound. This way we are in the present moment, we are centered, but also relaxed. We are aware of the environment, we are aware of the outer space. And being present and being spacey, this is the key to all meditation techniques. So we try to enjoy this, sensing the body, sensing the breathing, and also listening to the sounds. And then slowly we are opening our eyes and let again the word coming into us, touching us. So this was a very short but essential meditation. Thank you.
Thank you, Zoltan. That was beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Let's explore your life and your
My God.
journey today before we get into some of the weightier matters of philosophy and the master-disciple relationship and so forth. You were born in 1970, so you were born at a time when Hungary was still communist and officially
Yes.
atheistic. And yet by the time you were 16, you had found your way into Buddhist practice, into the Chan Buddhist school. So tell us about your upbringing. Tell us about how you, in that kind of a situation, discovered Buddhism with such passion and focus that 4 years later, you had become a Buddhist monk. That's an extraordinary thing for a young man to do in a communist, atheistic country and at that time. So tell us that story.
Yes, it was really interesting because, but it was somehow connected to my karma, let's say, because my uncle was living in Mongolia. So when I was 8 years old at 1978, that was my only wish, to go to Mongolia. Even I tried to study Mongolian language by myself because I was so much focused on going to Mongolia. But at the end, my father was saying no, because my uncle was living in Mongolia. They were geologists, so they were researching the Gobi Desert, and they were living in tents, and so I could spend there 1 year, but at the end my father said no. So I was really despairing. I was really upset that I was not allowed to Mongolia. So from that time, I had a very, very deep connection to Asia, and firstly to Mongolia. And then because as a cave researcher and also later a rock climber, I was very much interested to the Tibetan situation, because all the highest mountains were in Tibet. So I was reading a lot of books. And somehow later, I don't know how and when, but I also started to dream in Tibetan, even though I didn't know anything about Tibetan. So I had dreams in Tibetan. I recognized later because, yes, I was studying Tibetan for some years at the Buddhist college. And also I recognized some places because there were some expeditions from Hungary to the Tibetan plateau, and they had some slideshow. And I don't know, I was a child, so I was just talking or saying the name of monasteries. So that was like for me like a clear evidence that there is reincarnation. It's because even I didn't know. What the other language is Spanish, but I don't know why. Sometimes I dream in Spanish, but I don't know Spanish. No, I don't know Tibetan as well. But so there were times where frequently I was dreaming in Tibetan. So that was like a first hint. And it's interesting because that time there was no Tibetan community in Hungary. So again, some way of healing and like family things, I managed to meet a guy who was secretly a member of a Chinese community. And because from China they were escaping during the Cultural Revolution. First they were hiding themselves in Taiwan and then in Turkey, and some branch went to Canada. And so that was also a very interesting way they managed to come to Hungary and then teaching martial arts. But for me, Chinese language and martial arts was like opposite, totally opposite, maybe because of my Tibetan background. But that was the only one that time, and I had a personal connection to that community. So that is why in 1980s, I became a member of of this community. But at that time, we had to keep secret that this was original Buddhist community. So it was just about martial arts, so like gymnastic or something like that. But in deeper level, we got some teachings from the teacher. And then later, when there was the changing of the system, it was more open to practice Buddhism. That time, I really wanted to be a monk. So that time I was a student at a university. So I left. I was so determined. I left the university because I wanted to be monk. And that time I thought that enlightenment is very easy. Just we have to renounce the word. Like now I see it's a little bit escaping from the word. But that time I felt it's like the good way to access the path by renouncing the word, and then as a monk, practice. So there was one moment when I was like letting go all my books, all my minerals, everything, and I was just waiting for enlightenment. So it was our first shock that letting go everything is not me. It doesn't mean that I really let go in myself different things. So that was the way I became monk. And that time I was really enthusiastic, and I had a lot of experiences as well. So during the practices, I really thought that enlightenment, opening the heart is really close. But till that time, I am not enlightened. So maybe I am not a good example, but that was 35 years ago. And still I feel a lot of obstacles in myself. And also I feel that I have a lot of things to develop in meditation, in practicing, visualization, and even in understanding. So that was the first, this is the story how I became Buddhist.
You know, it reminds me of a story, Zoltan, that for many, many years I was going to the Soviet Union. I first went in 1982, and I started to go fairly regularly, and I spent a lot of time in what they called then Leningrad, which is now
yes.
St. Petersburg. And I remember one time I was there, and I went to the Museum of Religion and Atheism just to see what that was like. And they had different, it was all a kind of a Marxist critique of religion and espousing the virtues of atheism and so forth. And as I was coming out of the museum, two young men, teenagers, came up to me and very furtively, they said, "Are you American?" And I said, "Yes, I'm American." And they spoke kind of broken English. And they said, "We want to show you something." And they scurried around the corner till we were kind of hidden from view. And they pulled out of their pockets little 3x5 cards that had tankas drawn on them. And I said, "Whoa, and they knew all the meanings of all the symbols in the Tibetan Buddhist tankas. And we got to talking, and they said they worked at this museum.
Yeah, yes.
And they would go down into the basement where they had all the icons and the Buddhist art and the Tibetan art, because at one point, the Dalai Lama, the great 13th Dalai Lama, had set up diplomatic relations with the Tsar, and they'd opened up an embassy. And then they took me down into the basement and showed me some of the art. And then they said, "Do you want to see where the Tibetans had their embassy?" And so they took me to another part of St. Petersburg, and it was all very hush hush, and they were very. And Stalin had turned that temple and embassy into an animal research laboratory. But you could still see on the ceilings different Tibetan Buddhist artistic, but you would have never really noticed it had you gone in just looking at the walls around you. You had to sort of look up. But your story reminds me, you must have been like those teenagers, just furtively going around. But
Yeah,
it was like you were eating the forbidden fruit.
Yeah, because from Mongolia we had a lot of tangas as well. So
yeah,
at one moment my room was like a Tibetan temple, a lot of statues, tangas, and even I was finding out like ceremonies, what to do with them. So to receive something, wisdom or blessing. So it's interesting because, as you mentioned, St. Petersburg, this temple is called the Kala Chakra temple, which is existing in St. Petersburg still. And what is interesting, and this is kind of like about the today's topic, is a kind of, maybe it has some sense that in Kala Chakra, it is said that the male energy is connected to time and the female energy is connected to space. And that is why I try to research this phenomena of this, what is about this time and space thing. And that's why our initial meditation was about this, how to be aware of this vertical axis, and then also to be aware of time, and then aware of space, because I see the different traditions, they were approaching different way, time and space. And like, for example, this time or the male type of spirituality is like this vertical virtuality. When you feel that above your head is the guru, what is above always is good, the sky is better than the earth, and then also the earth and the lower territories are always something connected to wrong things and the hell and so on. And I was part of that. So when I started to learn, I had this idea that it's the only possibility to learn something spiritually is this way, this vertical way.
Sure.
I had a guru and I receive initiation, I receive all the instructions. And then the only thing is I have to just serve the above, and then somehow to let go what is below. And slowly, by years, I recognized this is not good anymore. So this was changing. The world was changing. So also, we can say that now we can travel around. For example, my uncle was a cook, and he was working on ships. And then 3 times he was circling around the globe.
Wow.
And then he said at one time when he arrived back the same place, he felt really it's incredible. It's very small. This planet is very, very small. So he had some depression because of that, because he recognized that I go that way, and then it's again, and like this. This is, I think, it's a very, very shocking way to recognize samsara. Everything is circling. And this way, I grew up in this notion of if you are spiritual, then you have to follow this vertical way of the guru is above, and then maybe the student is below, and you are like between the two.
Yeah. Now, how did your parents react to the fact that their son was getting into Buddhist practice and became a monk at age 20? I mean, that must have caused quite a stir.
Yeah. It was interesting because in Hungary, the highest rank or highest rate of divorce. So also my parents, they divorced, and my father left Hungary and he went to Monash University to Australia. So he had a research team because he was researching the molecular things and also the fluid crystals. And then he was living in Australia. So yeah, of course, he was shocked because his idea when I was born was that he knew very well the physics and then also the hidden dimension of gravity and so on. He was researching that. And then he decided that time that I will be a mathematician and we will work together like father and son, ruling the whole universe of like in Star Wars. And what was interesting, I really went to special mathematics faculty. So he was right, but he didn't know that I will change. And I left, at the end, the special mathematics faculty, and maybe I replaced with astrology, I don't know. But he was shocked, but he was that time in Australia. My mother was somehow she was a little bit happy because also she started her spiritual journey that time, and she was happy that we have a lot of friends, Buddhist friends, and also teachers were coming to our home. So she was happy. She was a little bit afraid of what financial stability I can, or how I can maintain myself, because
Sure.
to be a monk is not so easy in the Western world. In East, it's easier, but nowadays it's also, I think, the monastic system is collapsing in Asia.
Sure, very much so.
So, like we see, if we just as a for example, we see the situation in Sri Lanka. There were 4 million monks, and now it's 50,000. So it seems it's over. What is interesting that I've been in a monastery in Sri Lanka, and that was also the head abbot of Mongolia there. So it's very interesting. People gather together. And then the head of Mongolian Buddhism said that, as in many times in Buddhism, the Buddhist history, again, the ladies will help us. The ladies will somehow help to somehow to remain Buddhism on the planet. That was really very interesting, because this monastery in Sri Lanka was the first one where they were initiating women. From 500 years, they couldn't do that. And the abbot of this monastery started again. What was anyway forbidden in the Southern Buddhism, in Theravada Buddhism, it was forbidden because there is a rule that if you initiate or consecrate a nun, then there should be another nun there. But there was no nun, because this nun lineage in Theravada Buddhism disappeared in the 14th, 15th century. So he started again. So he was really very brave to do that. And he said that, yes, again, we need the help of women. So that was for me also a very interesting idea, because as I said, my way was very much this horizontal guru and then disciple relationship, right. And this I serve the guru or ruling me, and this kind of vertical thing. And then I started to somehow recognize, because I had another teacher in Tibetan Buddhism, Chögyal Norbu Rinpoche, that there are a lot of not just male teachers, but there are very, very good, for example, Vajra dance teachers, Yantra teachers. I was learning from ladies. And that was a totally different experience, this way to learn. And then I started to look more and research more. And I recognized that now also the spiritual world changed. And this vertical way of learning, that the teaching is coming from above, and this is based on time, because who is your teacher? Who is the teacher's teacher? Who is the teacher's teacher's teacher? So it's like a lineage which is connected to time is changed. And no, we can learn from space. And it means that we have to listen to our environment as well. We have to listen also the inner space. And I think this is a new phenomenon. For example, one time I had a conversation with Beru Khyentse Rinpoche. He's from Tibetan Buddhism. He's from the Kagyu order, and we had a private talking, and then he was explaining that the ladies are giving the makeup for themselves because they want to be nice for the men. And I said, maybe not. This is not the case. They would like to be brave to live, and that's why there is a necessity of makeup. And we started to talk about, he was saying that all our problems is emotions, the emotion of hatred, the emotion of desire, and so on and so on. And I told him that no, it's I think the main problem is depression and the oppression of emotions. And then he said, "Oh my God, is it true? Did you mention it to the Dalai Lama?" And I said, no, I'm not in conversation with the Dalai Lama, because he was saddened, because in the texts, but they are 2,000 years old texts and or 1,500 years old text. You can really find this, that all our problem, all the source of suffering is the emotions. But now in our globalization, we see different things. We are not brave enough to express our emotions, or even we don't have tools to express our emotions. And then he was really saddened. And he said, oh, we have to inform the Dalai Lama because we have to change our teachings, because maybe we teach a wrong thing. So that was for me also a very, very interesting experience, that even Rinpoche was seeing that maybe the teaching is not correct. The monastic teaching is maybe not correct for those people who are not monks and nuns. Maybe the teachings are old. So we have to somehow to revise the teachings. So that was strengthening my idea that I have to research those methods and those things which is no good for us. And I had many experiences in monasticism, in monastic teachings like initiations, practices. And also I was translating in Hungary a lot of Rinpoches. They were coming from the monastic environment. And I saw that some questions, some situations, they cannot answer. Why? Because they don't have experiences. So one time I was translating for Rinpoche who was monk from the early childhood, so continuously monk. And there was a lady, and she was asking him about sexuality. And I was very surprised what to answer for this, because he had no experience in sexuality. Maybe he can tell something from texts, but it's not so real. So sometimes we see this, that we cannot answer. We cannot give or proper question, and then the proper answer cannot match because they are coming from a total different environment. And then first, the West was very happy about the Tibetan Buddhists, for example, the Chinese or the Japanese Buddhism, but this is all coming from monasteries. And we thought that the monastic teachings are good for us. But then later, I also recognized, because of on my skin that I was monk, that for a layman, for a daily life, the monastic teachings are not so proper, because we don't live in monasteries. We don't live that kind of life. And I was like researching that, is there anything about lay people, or are there any teachings about lay people? And then I was checking all the texts, what I could, and I recognized that mostly the teachings are for monks or nuns, and then the teachings for yogis who are living in the mountains, remote area, and they are on retreats. And there are some teachings for enlightened beings, bodhisattvas, and there are teachings for kings, and then there are also teachings for philosophers. But actually, we are not monks, not philosophers, not yogis, not kings or queens, and also not, I mentioned these five. So I try to do research about that. What about us? Is there anything about us in spirituality, mainly in Buddhism? And I found to compare, from 7,000 in the Pali Canon, there are 7,000 suttas, and from the 7,000, around 50 suttas, which is about lay people. It's very, very few.
Wow.
And also very few people, but there were some lay people who were enlightened beings, like Jivaka. So the doctor of the Buddha, he'd never been a monk. He was always. Or there were some few people who were lay persons, and they could be enlightened. One was he was a sponsor of the Buddha. And then he was giving a lot of place, those monasteries and gardens to the Buddha. And he was called Anandapindika. And it's interesting because before his death, then the Buddha was sending Sariputta and told Sariputta that okay, Sariputta, Anathapindika is near to death, so please tell him some real teachings. And then Sariputta went to Anathapindika and was telling about the truth of karma, and then what is the real meditation. And then Anathapindika was crying and telling to Sariputta, but why you were keeping this secret? And he was asking Sariputta, please tell this teaching to the people. And then Sariputta told him, I'm really sorry, but this was exclusively for monks. And so at that time, that was also an interesting thing. And because of this teaching, then Anathapindika got enlightened during the death. And then he had an immediate rebirth to the Deva realm. And as a Deva, he came back. And there is a story when there is a very, very big light in a forest. And everybody thought that the Buddha was emitting light, but actually Anathapindika returned to the forest and was like the whole forest was in light. And then the Buddha explained that Anathapindika returned. And then he came to the Buddha thanking all the teachings. But the story is really very interesting that those times also they were separating the teachings, which is exclusive for monks who were letting go all the world. And then also this is the path of renunciation. And then there was some teachings for lay people. But now I think we need the lay people teachings. And that is the case also in Asia. So for example, in Thailand, there are a lot of people who are saying that we don't want to be monks and nuns now, but we need teachings. Actually, in the monastic system, it is said that for lay people, the best thing is to do good karma. And it means that supporting the Sangha, supporting the spiritual community and living ethical life. But usually, even in Thailand, they were not giving meditation techniques to the lay people. And now it started to be changing. And what is interesting in Thailand, there are very, very good lady teachers now. They cannot be a monk, but they are wearing white clothes, and they are really, really very good. Because also this is a demand. So they recognize that people need the Dharma, they need spiritual techniques, also meditation, but not in a way of monastic system. So as myself, this is also connected to my story because I was monk. And maybe I was a not so good monk, but later I recognized that to be a monk, you can be very much isolated from life, isolated from even the time and everything. So that is why I had this recognition of there is the vertical spirituality and horizontal spirituality. And now I feel that more and more and more we need the horizontal spirituality. That means that we are lay people, and what can be used in our lay people life, in our daily life. And actually we have a lot of things, the same things as monks. We have also body, we have also breathing, we have also mind, also we have environment. And what is interesting that these vertical teachings we find in Tantra very much, where the guru is very important. We find also in a monastic life, and there is the consecration as a monk also, it's like a higher. But there is one teaching which is horizontal, and this is the Bodhisattvayana, so the Mahayana, where the aim of practicing is also to benefit our environment. And there is a very interesting sutra, the Avatamsaka Sutra, where we can find that a real bodhisattva, if you want to check the spiritual level of a real bodhisattva, check the environment of the bodhisattva. So, and that is why I feel very important, like universities and the schools, because in school and university we create environment as well. So But it's a very, very interesting way to esteem somebody, to esteem according to or to seeing the environment, and also the people, the quality of the people, or the quality of animals, and also all like the forest also. Then you can see that what about the mandala of that bodhisattva. And that's my understanding now. This I call vertical or horizontal dharma,
Sure.
or spacey dharma.
Well, it's so interesting, Zoltan. You're speaking to what they call the zeitgeist, because I mean, if you look at all the axial religions, Buddhism, Hinduism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, they're all transcendental religions. They're all religions in the West where you go to heaven. And in the East, you sort of go beyond incarnation, and the world and women and nature was always deprecated and considered lower. But what you're speaking to is this great inversion that I think is happening all over the world. And that is nature is being affirmed, because we're realizing with climate change that we are nature.
Yes.
That's one reason why I have the trees behind me. And I greet everybody every day in the spirit of the trees, because we have a symbiotic relationship with nature. And then women are liberated more and more. And the result of that, in terms of religion, is that less and less of the population is considering themselves religious, but they're deeply spiritual. And the spirituality then is less and less vertical. It's becoming more and more horizontal as everyone, and I'm struck by your journey. You started with Chan Buddhism, and then you went to Tibetan Buddhism, and then you went to Theravada. You've experienced Zen. You have developed a Buddhist practice and a spirituality that's very unique to you.
Yeah,
and I think that's the charism you have as a teacher now, is that it's a spirituality that is been developed through your own experience. Would that be a fair statement?
Yeah, yes, and I see also there are parallel people who have the same recognition, and by their own journeys. So that's interesting. This verticality. For example, for me, very important is the breathing meditation, and I see now there are 3 kinds of breathing meditation. There are meditations based on natural breathing, which is not so easy, because actually when we are observing our breathing, then we are changing the shape of the breathing or the rhythm of the breathing. And there is also this kind of emotional breathing, when we are connecting emotions to the breathing. For example, I visualize inhalation. I'm inhaling wisdom, and I exhale all my filthy emotions, all my fear, for example. So we are using the breathing through for developing our emotional state. And there are, of course, the tantric breathing techniques when we are doing different things like kumbhaka and so on. But anyhow, we do any breathing. For me, the most important is to recognize that by our breathing, we are very much connected to the plants, the trees of the earth. Because and then sometimes I used to close the windows. And then I say now in the room, okay, we will see what happens. We kill ourselves, we kill each other. If the windows are closed and we just start to breathe, then actually we are killing each other. If there is no plants who are transforming the carbon dioxide into oxygen, then we are our best friends, the trees and the plants, because we can breathe. If the planet changes, then we cannot breathe, no more life. And then it's interesting how people are reacting to this, because this is a fact, and it's interesting because they don't recognize that in every breathing we are connected to the plants. And so this is also for me very important, to somehow to feel that the environment is really very important, because the vertical dharma is we can develop by our environment. So like the selective garbage, and also being responsible for the future of this planet, because it would be a very good idea to escape, but I think it's no way just to escape by the central channel and then escape. I think it's more important to have responsibility for our environment, and then also responsible for our mandala. What is interesting, and I was a little bit surprised when I first heard this, that there is this enlightenment, the 3 levels of enlightenment called the Nirmanakaya, Sambhogakaya, and Dharmakaya. And actually the kaya is like a word sometimes we are using for the body. But the kaya is representing the enlightened body, and the definition of enlightened body is the body and the environment together. So it means that if we are in the state of the kaya, we are not separated from our environment. We are how the environment, and then this way is the body. How the body is then that way the environment. So it means that we are experiencing our reality in a way of a mandala. Of course, the center, this is the center, but there is a surrounding around us. And this is not just an imagination, because in Tibetan Buddhism, this is part of the visualization techniques, of the tantric techniques, when we are like trying to visualize the enlightened body and the enlightened environment. But actually at one moment we have to realize it now here also, enlightened body and enlightened environment. So that is why I feel this horizontal dharma is very good. And when we are talking about horizontal dharma, it means also that we don't have to escape from our karma, but we have to somehow to make our karma, our story intelligent way of action, intelligent way of perceiving reality. Exactly. So that's my my understanding now, that this vertical and horizontal is really different, and the vertical one is not working. Yeah. More and more it seems it's not working, that somebody is commanding this master disciple relationship. And the horizontal dharma, it means, and this was in the Mahayana, that we help each other. So we share. For example, to share is the horizontal way. And it's interesting that this kind of media of YouTube and so on, it's possible to share. And people are started to study and learn from each other by way of media and by way of sharing things. That I think it's very good.
Yes. Well, it's so interesting that the rise of the environment and the rise of women in Buddhism is happening simultaneously, and it's an extraordinary phenomenon, as this ethos of transcendence is being turned on its head, and that which is immanent, that which is horizontal, is now gaining in power and in importance as we view the future of spirituality. Now, let's just talk a moment, Zoltan, about what is the effect on Buddhist doctrine of the sort of the rise of nature and the rise of women in a system that for 3,000 years nearly has been deprecating nature, deprecating women, and highly organized around patriarchal hierarchy. What, as you're experiencing that inversion, what is the effect that you're seeing in Buddhist doctrine and Buddhist philosophy?
So what for example, in Dzogchen teachings, there is a prediction of Guru Rinpoche. And then he's saying that at the last, like now, because he had the prediction about when people are watching Black Mirrors. This is a little bit shocking thing that there is one prediction. It is said that at the end of time, people were always like looking at black mirrors, and they know everything from the black mirrors. So he had the vision of mobile phones, black mirror. It's black. It's amazing. And he said that at that time, more and more women will be realized than men, because the times this globalization is connected to Mother Earth. It's connected to space, and space is much more closer to women. And what is interesting, that if we check the path of spirituality according to Buddhist tradition is, first we start with more this like man type of things. So we are regulating our behavior, we are concentrating, we try to understand things. All is like a kind of male type of behavior, regulation of like ethical things, and also this concentration, one-pointedness, and also thinking or philosophy is very much connected to the man way of brain or mind functions. But then the next level is feeling, and many philosophical schools, they are doing the same. They are saying that, okay, learn this, learn that, and think. At one point you cannot think more. And when you cannot think more, like in Madhyamaka it is said by Nagarjuna that at the end you cannot state anything, then what you can do to feel. And then always the second stage of spiritual practices, the higher stages are all connected to women. Also in yoga, when we are doing asanas, it's more like action. But when we are doing pranayama, we are dealing with the life force. Then this is inner practice, and this is all connected to women. And it's interesting that in the ancient time, the teachers of the inner practices, they were all women. But later it became like a male hierarchy, and also the monastic system, and also connected to power. And then it became male, but actually yoga and this all connected to feelings, because thinking reality is very much different than feeling reality. And then
Sure.
so the path, the spiritual
What's
path,
the difference between the left brain and the right brain?
Yes. So the first thing is thinking is more like connected or closer to man, but the deeper practices connected to feeling, they are more accessible for women. And that is why Guru Rinpoche said in his prediction that this time, what is now, more women will be realized. Much more women will be realized than men. It means that more and more women will experience opening, wisdom, enlightenment than men. And then the last stage after feeling is the inseparability of the two. So that is very interesting if you check all the spiritual path, to recognize that this stage of man, then the women, and then comes the center. Even like a mandala, the center of the mandala is this is like a man, and then inner side is more women, and then at the center of the center, then there is a beyond any gender. So also in Tantra, the outer way is visualization, the inner way is the prana, so this is the completion phase, and the Mahamudra is when in the center, which is beyond gender. And it means that I feel, and this is a little bit, I more and more feel that now we have to learn from women. So this is the time is turning that they can help us now. And this was also in a speech of this abbot in Sri Lanka, that now we need women, and then their wisdom, and then their way of seeing reality, and then their practical things, because the nature of women is protecting the environment. And it seems that the nature of man is sometimes not. As we see that all the scientific fields and also all the like weapons are created by man. It's our mind. It seems in our mind there is this way of soldiers and fighting each other and separation of nations and so on.
Yes, and of course, this is something that the Dalai Lama has also spoken about. And he's particularly pointed out or pointed to Western women as needing to really lead in world transformation. So what you're experiencing and you're articulating, I think, is an impulse. And I know from, just Ubiquity University, 60, 70, sometimes 80% of all of our students from the very beginning of the university have been women. And if you take any of the, retreat centers, whether it's Omega or Esalen, the substantial majority of people who are seeking spiritual growth and development, enlightenment, if you will, have been women. It's been much more challenging to get men to show up, and that's one factor. And I think in the power of women's liberation is that they're feeding their souls internally as they are gaining ascendancy externally in economics and politics and business, science, and so forth. I think there's the statistics now are that more young women are graduating from college and universities now, at least in the United States, than men. Also, so at every level, women are gaining numerical ascendancy, I would say.
So back to the question, some monastic lineages, they cannot do anything with that. So they just see what's happening. And there are some open-minded teachers, like Drupakadju lineage, for example, or our teacher, Chegyalam Kanyulbu, who recognized that. So we had 4 main teachers in the Dzogchen community, and 3 of them were women, just 1 man. And then it was really a very, very nice thing to learn from women. And also in Drupakadju, they allowed to women to learn martial arts and to perform arts and different things in monastic system as well. So, but other lineages, they are like not so open to that phenomena, and they are like collapsing also because of that.
Yeah. Now, Zoltan, let's turn to the fundamental issue of the master-disciple relationship, which, as you said at the beginning, from the very beginning, and this isn't just Buddhist, this is sort of East or West, the master is up here and the disciple is down there. What you're saying, as we become more and more horizontal and we absorb environmental feminine impulses into our spirituality, that above and below dichotomy and hierarchy is breaking down. So in your experience as a Buddhist teacher, how are you experiencing the transposition and the reshaping of the master-disciple relationship in our world today?
So there is a teaching of the Buddha when he is talking about healing, and he's frequently said that he is like a doctor, and then the Dharma is like medicine, and the people are sick, so they are actually the patient, and then there are some like helpers, they are the community, the Sangha. And I feel this is somehow a very healthy way of seeing the teachings and the teachers. The teachers are actually just giving something. And at what I see now very, very much, that there were some texts in Buddhism when people were had the opportunity, and also they were asked to check the teachers. And now we need this very much. Also the teachers to check the students, and the students to check the teachers, because now the names and ranks and so on. And then we have, we can spend 20 years, 25, 30 years, and then at the end we feel very much upset. And that is a problem. So first of all, it's very important, even sometimes in text they said that for 10 years they were checking the teacher. And when you check the teacher, you have to see that what is the problem is of the ego, and also what he can teach, and so on and so on. And in the Mahayana system, the teacher and the student is the same level, because the one is giving, it's called Kalyana Mitra or Genpa Shenyan in Tibetan, and it means that friend, actually friend in the ethics or friend in the wisdom, for example, we can translate like this. And this should be, I think this is the new way of teaching, and we try to follow this in our college, that the teachers are not gurus. They are like friends, and they are helping. We are helping each other, and even in students can help the teacher. So what they know, they can also give or share, and what the teacher knows. And I think this is a healthy new way, not so new because it was in the Mahayana, but we should somehow develop this idea that we are checking each other, because we should really see the quality of a teacher. When we open and we receive information, first we have to check. Like a normal food, we also do the same, we check. But in spirituality, it's very difficult because there is no checking system. Even though the Dalai Lama is, even him, he said that, okay, I don't ask me. So that is why we have to learn how to check someone, a teacher, what we need. For liberation, if you want to be liberated, then we have to find a teacher who can teach liberation. And we have to check if it's possible or not possible. And this is our also task. This is part of our path, because in the old days, we had to just find, I found my teacher, I found my guru, no, I am ready. But as my experience, it's not, we are not ready, we have to check. This is also part of this checking process, is also part of our spiritual path. And for that there are a lot of texts, but actually they are not translated. Many lists about how a spiritual teacher, what kind of qualities he should or she or he should have. And also there are some lists of how about the student, because we have to check ourselves as well. And then this way of sharing is, I think, a very healthy way.
Yes.
Because I respect because so just one little story. When Rinpoche, Namkha Rinpoche was living in Tenerife, and there was a lot of houses, and his house was among the many other houses where the students were living, and there was no any fence, nothing, there was no protection. He was living with us, and there was an armchair where wherever he came to teach, he came from his house and was sitting in the armchair and giving us 5 minutes to be together with him, asking questions, even not connected to teaching anything about disco, music, dance, and so on, so on, so on. And after 5 or 6 minutes, he stood up and went to the teaching place, and he was giving the teaching. And when he came back after the teaching, he was sitting again in the same armchair, and then was sharing his experiences from early his childhood, many things. Even we were singing also together, and then he went back home. And for all of us, we were not. For of us, it was the armchair, which was the gate between our space and Rinpoche's space, but there was no fence. So I think this is really intelligence. When you are behaving that way, that you don't need fence, you don't need to strict rules or bodyguards and so on, because according to your behavior or so that was for me, I was really respecting. So for me, not the miracles, because I saw a lot of miracles as well. I was connected to many teachers, but this intelligence, I really bowed down. This is really, I said, this is a teacher. And I think this way we can learn, we can see the small things, because in small things, there are a lot of wisdom and the miracles. And when you see something, and that's why you respect the teacher, then it's I think a healthy connection. But because of the ranks and this Rinpoche, that master, that enlightened being, even Rinpoche was not happy when somebody was saying that he's enlightened, but because he said, I don't know. I have some experience. I learned a lot. That's why I can communicate something, which is, if it's good for you, then it's okay. But if it's not good, then it's not. And one thing also, which is when we check a teacher, is very important, that if the teacher is giving us freedom or not, because Rinpoche was always sending us to see other communities. So not protecting or isolating us. I am the only one teacher. No, go and look around and see what other communities are doing. So, and experience other meditation techniques. And when you feel or when you see that my one is proper for you, then it's okay. But this is based on wisdom or experiencing, not about faith or faith.
Yeah. Well, it's so important what you're saying, because in many ways the disciple now is in the lead, because even as you, Chan, Tibetan, Theravadan, Mahayana, you've amalgamated Buddhist teachings into what's good for Sultan chair.
Yeah. Yes.
And
yes.
So that the notion that the student, the disciple, is now in the lead, and the teachers fit in where they are relevant to the student's journey. Because at some stage in your life, I mean, I look back over my life, and I went through a Castaneda stage where everything was about Carlos Castaneda. And I read all his books, and I was just immersed. And then all of a sudden you have another experience, then you go into a Zen stage, then a Tibetan Buddhist, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a very, and it comes out to this conclusion that the next Buddha will not be an individual, it will be a community. Because we're all searching together, whether you're teacher or disciple, we're all in it together, all exploring the dimensionality of what enlightenment actually means. So comment on this notion of the Buddha being the Sangha.
And there is also a scripture about that, because in Mahayana it is said that when somebody is enlightened, then can manifest in many, many bodies. It means that also enlightenment can have many, many bodies. And what is interesting, that there was one question about why the Buddha was manifesting on our planet, and then there was an answer. It is said that when many people are starting to research reality, searching for reality, or checking reality, or meditate on what is reality, then at certain moment, because of one pointed being present, the mind starting to be working as a mirror. It is sometimes called the mirror of Latong or Vipassana, when reflection and wisdom comes. And in this mirror can reflect the Buddha in certain types or certain amount of people mind. And it is said that when on this planet, many people started to be spiritual one, then a Buddha could reflect in their mind. And it's also possible that the next Buddha is a reflection in many people's mind.
Yeah.
So according to the ancient text as well, it is possible.
Enlightenment is the mirror.
Yes.
And we all refract it in slightly different ways, so that the enlightenment is actually the totality of all the reflections in the mirror.
Yes.
Yeah. That's it's
very interesting good. Because in Hinduism, for example, they and one thing I just occurred into my mind, that I more and more see that enlightenment is very similar to death. And enlightenment and death also similar from the viewpoint that we are always going alone. So for example, if you take the example of the Buddha, he left all his teachers. So before understanding reality, he became absolutely alone. So it's really similar to that. So we have to develop our spiritual qualities, and then, but at the end, enlightenment, we have to see alone, because there are outside the world, there are many people who are saying reality is like that, accept my reality, but actually everybody should recognize their reality alone. This is very similar to death, and that is why we have to be careful very much about this strong teacher and student relationship. And what I also suggest to also the students in the college, that they should be very much aware of their human rights. Human rights is very important, but human rights also has this aspect that we don't have to so no one can command us with emotions. No one can oppress us with negative emotions, because we have human rights to respond to this kind of situations, and that's also very important. But this reflection is very interesting, that and then one thing also, which is in Buddhist teaching, that when somebody is now, we are also reflecting each other now, but we have a lot of expectations and a lot of way of past memories. We are not clearly see each other, not clearly reflect each other. But according to some teachings, the Buddhas are really see each other. So that's also a good idea for the future, that when we are on the spiritual path, it means that we are more and more clearly we see each other. Of course, ourselves as well, but each other, and more we can reflect each other's. I'm always thinking about that the body has a concrete line surface, but how is it possible that our mind has no end? But why we don't hear the other person's thoughts? It would be a very interesting way of teaching, that you just, okay, no, I'm thinking about the recipe of this soup. Can you hear? Can you see? Yes, we receive. Thank you very much. Because mind is really everywhere. But somehow, because of our I don't know, obstacles or obscurations, somehow we cannot connect really each other's mind. And I think this will be a kind of task for the future, to clear away these obstacles.
Yes, well, I mean, animals do it all the time. We had a situation here just the other day where we were going to take the cat to the veterinarian. And every time you think the thought that we have to go get the cat to take her to the vet, she disappears. So
very well.
just thinking the thought. So you're absolutely right, Zoltan. If a cat can read our minds, why can't you and I read each other's minds? It's not that the faculty doesn't exist. It's simply that we've lost access to the faculty.
Yes, and all the ancient teachers, and then also the text, we find that the teachings can have 3 levels. 3 levels means the text. So based on text, how we now do, there are books, and then the second one, when there is text, we need also the oral commentary. So even in universities, if we have the text, it's not enough. We need the person who is explaining what about the text. But there is always a 3rd level of mind-to-mind communication. And the mind-to-mind level, and in Zen and in Dzogchen, it was a very, very important phenomenon, that the real knowledge can be accessed just by mind-to-mind connection.
Yes.
That
all the stories of the Buddha giving his highest teachings in complete silence.
Yes, and that is the Dhammapada, and the Dhammapada is called mind udana. So it's like mind proclamation. And that the whole Dhammapada, that is why there is no frame of Dhammapada, how it happened, nothing, just starting the verses of Dhammapada. And according to commentaries, because there were some high level of students, and they could connect to the mind, enlightened mind of the Buddha, and they received the Dhammapada, the whole text of Dhammapada that way. So it was the silence way of knowledge, gaining knowledge.
Yeah. Well, we're very primitive here on Humanity Rising because we talk every day.
But we need.
One of these days you can come back on and just be silent for an hour and see who learns the teaching. That would be an interesting experience.
Yeah, and also we need a lot of books. So yeah, this way of texts we need.
Yeah. So just final reflection on your part, Zoltan, about as we face the future now, the transcendental is being replaced by the immanent, the environment, women are now in the forefront, the master-disciple relationship is being turned on its head, and the Buddha is the Sangha. As you look to the future, what are the virtues or what principles in this topsy-turvy world where all the opposites are turning into their opposite and spirituality is being disengaged from religious doctrine, what principles do you find are important for people to find their way in this very ambiguous, very exciting, very creative, but we're in a situation without definition right now? How do we find our way?
So there is a way of or defining the different ways. There is it's called the 5 capacities, and it's interesting to check. The first capacity is the way or the spiritual path based on faith, and this is mostly all the religious system is based on faith. You have to believe this, you have to believe that. And I feel and I see the same way that it's more and more, it's closing this way, because what I believe is cannot be the ultimate thing. And what is the guarantee that is it that way or that way? So that is, I feel also myself, and I see also in my surrounding that this is closing. Also the way of capacities, the concentration or the yogic path is starting to be closed, because we don't have time really for 15, 20 years of retreats to develop one-pointedness, the capacities. And the concentration and capacity is also closed. But what is open is awareness, the awareness of time. And it's also can be connected to enjoying our being, enjoy time, enjoy life. So what I see is this presence, developing presence, and understanding, so intelligence. And what as a method is very important is openness and communication, which is in the Mahayana. I see more and more and more that we have to release our ideas and so on, to be open and to communicate to also the earth, the trees, and everything, to learn how to communicate on different levels. But for that, we need to develop this being present and a way of intelligence to understand. And that for that, we don't need gurus, because the gurus are needed in like teachers or priests. We need when there is the way of the faith, or the way of concentration, or the way of capacities. That in those ways we need teachers, gurus. But this one, how learning being present, and then seeing the truth, seeing reality, to develop intelligence and openness and communication, we have to just be friends. That's for me is good for my heart.
Beautifully put. Awareness and presence, and I would say egalitarianism. We're all in this together as friends. That's a beautiful, beautiful notion, Sultan. Thank you so much. Friendship is in Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, friendship, True friendship
Yes.
is the highest virtue. It's the highest virtue. So thank you for bringing us into that awareness today. I really want to thank you for your illumination. It's been very profound. I'd love to have you back down the trail. So that's Zoltan Chair, everyone, Buddhist practitioner and teacher in Budapest, who is gracing us today. We want to thank you. Tomorrow, we will be turning to India, and we'll be hearing from someone who has translated one of the deepest mystical texts of southern India called the Chorale. And that'll be tomorrow as we deepen our exploration into human spirituality in this very pivotal
Of course,
time.
without Jim, it's impossible, this podcast. So thank you very much, Jim. Very good questions, also the openness, everything. Thank you.
Well, we really appreciate you, Zoltan. So everybody's now welcome to the after session chat group. Zoltan, if you can join, you're more than welcome. You'll see the link in the chat box that you can just click on and join. But that'll do it for today, everyone. We'll see you all tomorrow here on Humanity Rising. Bye for now. Thank you, Zoltan.